Discover the amazing journey of baby puppy Ginger, a heartwarming tale of strength in 30 days. Ginger was a timid puppy, her soft fur a warm shade of copper that matched the sunsets over the cozy suburban neighborhood outside Austin, Texas, abandoned and alone at the shelter. She watched the cheerful pastel houses filled with families enjoying the last, lazy days of summer. Each giggle and bark from the yard echoed through her heart, a constant reminder of what she once knew. Her world, once bright and full of laughter, had turned shadowy and fear-filled, leaving her trembling at loud sounds and hiding at the first rumble of thunder. Then came the Parkers, a family grappling with their own storms, losing their cherished grocery store to a chain that seemed to bulldoze the dreams of small-town America. They ventured to the shelter, hoping to lift their spirits and perhaps give hope a new face. And there she was, sitting on the edge of despair, her big brown eyes shimmering like her namesake, a flicker of ginger spice in a vanilla world. When they locked eyes, Ginger felt a rush of comfort, as if this family would understand her fears. At first, things were blissful. Ginger brought laughter back into the Parker home, yet the echoes of late-night conversations haunted her new life. She would huddle under the dining table, trembling at the fierce whispers of overdue bills and community center troubles. The Parkers, full of compassion, tried their best to train her, guiding her with gentle hands. But she saw their burden, just as they recognized her own trepidation. One fateful day, despair hit hard. A letter threatened to shut down the community center, the heart of their neighborhood, due to unpaid utilities. The room followed a silent gasp as they read it aloud. Ginger sensed the pressure. She felt the weight in their chests and the tears hanging in their eyes. Desperation hung in the air, feeling all too familiar to the pup. "Let's go," Mr. Parker finally said, summoning the family to brave the storm together. The supportive outing turned into a desperate errand for donations, and Ginger was thrilled to come along. However, little did she know, fate had a different plan for her that very day. As they walked down the road, a young girl played with her ball on the street, laughter ringing in the air. Suddenly, chaos erupted. A car sped down the road. Its driver unaware, a split second turned into a lifetime. Ginger's instincts kicked in. She dashed forward, barking fiercely, her heart pounding faster than her paws could carry her. The neighborhood gasped, watching with wide eyes as Ginger leaped into action, distracting the driver just enough for the girl to be pulled back to safety. A collective sigh of relief morphed into cheers. What just happened? People whispered, all lacing their tones, as Ginger stood panting, victorious. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. With Ginger, now recognized as a local hero, the Parkers felt a flicker of hope, but their financial struggles still loomed large like dark clouds. Ginger snuggled closer, her soft warmth a comfort to them. As the town began to rally behind the Parkers, they prepared for a fundraising event. Feeling the tightness in their chests, could they rally enough support to save their community center? And as they stood poised on the edge of uncertainty, A sudden knock on the door startled them all. It echoed with promise. Or another hurdle that might tear them apart. What lay behind that door? The knock hung in the air. A moment suspended in time. Mrs. Parker exchanged quick glances with her family, their minds racing through possibilities. Mr. Parker stood up, a nervous flutter in his chest. He approached the door, the floorboards creaking under his uncertain steps. With one deep breath, he turned the handle and swung it open. A tall woman with kind smile and crisp business attire stood on the porch, holding a large envelope against her side. "Good afternoon," she said cheerfully, her voice brightening the gloomy atmosphere of the previous days. "I'm Emily Jenkins from the local Chamber of Commerce. I heard about what happened today and the trouble the community center is in." Mr. Parker nodded, still wary. "Yes, we're really in a tight spot. We're trying to organize a fundraiser, but—" "Actually," Emily cut him off, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm, "I may have some good news. The Chamber wants to help. We'd like to sponsor the event." Hope flickered in the Parker family's hearts. Ginger, sensing the change, wiggled her tail, almost jumping in excitement. This was the moment they had been waiting for, a sign, a boost from their community. Emily continued, "We can set up a promotional campaign, arrange for food vendors to donate their services, and even help you with local media coverage to get the word out. With our resources, I think we could really make this work." As Emily spoke, Mr. Parker's jaw dropped with disbelief. "You mean—" "We could actually save the center," Emily smiled warmly. "Absolutely. Let's put Austin on the map as a community that cares." In that instant, although the road ahead wasn't clear, the Parkers felt a wave of relief wash over them. They rushed back inside to include the rest of the family in the news. Ginger jumped around, her tiny paws tapping rapidly against the floor. She could feel their joy, their lightness, as they embraced each other with laughter and tears of gratitude. It felt as if she had sparked something incredible, just like the hero she had become that day. However, as plans were made for the fundraiser, the anxiousness crept back. What if it wasn't enough? Would the town really rally together? Days passed, filled with flyers and meetings, the air charged with nervous energy. This was not just about the center. It was about their home, their dreams. Then came the evening of the event. The community center, dressed in colorful balloons and bright lights, buzzed with anticipation. Families filled the space, laughter resonating in the once hollow building. As the Parkers stood behind their table, handing out tickets and snacks, they saw familiar faces. Friends, neighbors, even strangers came together, united by a shared purpose. Ginger trotted through the crowd, receiving pats and belly rubs from grateful kids. The beautiful, joyful chaos enveloped her, reminding her how far she had come. But then, just as the festivities began, a loud crash echoed from the back of the center, drawing everyone's attention. Gasps filled the air, and Ginger stopped in her tracks. Instinctively, she felt the tension gathering, her heart racing again as she turned to see. What could have caused such a commotion on what was meant to be a joyful night? The crowd hushed, turning to see what came next. Ginger's ears perked up. It was all up to her once again. What would she discover in the midst of this chaos? Would it bring the unity they so desperately needed, or would it threaten everything they had fought for? The crowd shifted, eyes wide with curiosity and concern. Ginger could feel the energy in the room shift from joyous celebration to anxious anticipation. As she took a few cautious steps toward the source of the sound, she saw a tall stack of chairs topple over. Scattering across the floor, some chairs landing on top of each other, like a pile of fallen dreams. "Is everyone okay?" A familiar voice called out from the crowd. It was Thompson, the community's facipali. He rushed toward the mess, trying to reassure those around him. Emotion washed over Ginger as she watched Mr. Thompson frantically trying to gather the scattered chairs. His usual calm demeanor rattled. People began murmuring amongst themselves. What happened? Was someone hurt? The questions hung in the air, heavy with uncertainty. Ginger could feel the weight of it. Should she stay back or step forward? Her instincts urged her on. Suddenly, a little boy, no older than 6, ran up to Mr. Thompson. "I saw it, Mr. Thompson. I think the wind blew them over." His eyes were wide with both fear and excitement, as if he were telling the most important secret in the world. Ginger listened as the crowd's anxiety began to lessen. Laughter broke out as the boy's comments struck a chord with others. "Let's blame it on the wind," someone chuckled. The tension seemed to ease. The collective breath they had all been holding released into a wave of shared relief. But even amid the laughter, Ginger knew something deeper was at play. The community center was more than just a building. It was a haven for everyone here, a place where stories intertwined. And while a few misplaced chairs could be reset, the importance of this night felt like a fragile thread. "Let's rally together," Emily shouted, not missing a beat. "We've worked hard to make this night special. We can't let a few chairs ruin it." "Who's with me?" A cheer erupted from the crowd. Hand in hand, they began to clean up the mess, rekindling their spirit and laughter as they shared stories of past events at the center. They joked, took turns stacking chairs, and Ginger darted in between, spreading warmth with every wag of her tail. As the last chair was set back in place, Emily spoke again, her voice lifting above the chatter. "If we can come together after a little crash, just think what we can achieve tonight. Let's make this evening one to remember for all the right reasons." Cheers and applause filled the room. Ginger bounced around them, sensing their renewed energy flowing like a stream of hope. But beneath her joyous exterior, a question nagged at her. Would this unity hold if faced with bigger challenges? Just then, the door swung open, and a gust of wind rushed inside. A figure emerged, shrouded in shadows, with something clutched tightly in their hand. The laughter faded, and the crowd turned once more, heartbeats quickening with a mix of curiosity and fear. Who was this newcomer, and what did they bring with them? Would they be an ally or another obstacle on the path to saving the community center? Ginger's heart raced as she prepared to unveil another layer of their extraordinary journey. A hush fell over the room, thick with uncertainty as all eyes turned toward the figure at the door. Shadows danced across their face, but a sense of tension hung in the air, sharp and palpable. Ginger's heart pounded louder, with every passing second, a silent drum echoing her worry. "Who are you?" Emily stepped forward, her voice steady but laced with concern. She was a natural leader, unyielding even in the face of the unknown. The murmurs of the crowd faded as they awaited an answer, caught between anticipation and fear. The figure finally took a step into the light, revealing a young woman with striking features. Her eyes sparkled with determination, and the object she clutched tightly, a small box, seemed to carry a weight far beyond its size. "I'm Clara," she said, her voice firm yet gentle, "and I'm here to help." "Help with what?" Mr. Thompson asked, brows furrowing as he regarded the newcomer. Clara took a deep breath, glancing at the scattering of chairs on the floor. "I heard about your community center. You're in trouble, aren't you?" She held out the box, inviting curiosity, but planting seeds of doubt. "I brought something that can help the center, and maybe even more than that." Ginger felt a prickle of hope. Could this stranger truly have the answer they were searching for? But a flicker of suspicion threaded through the air. Who was she really, and what was inside that box? "I don't mean to alarm anyone," Clara continued, sensing the hesitation. "But I've been watching how hard everyone has fought to keep this place alive. I want to show you all that sometimes hope comes from the most unexpected places." Emily stepped closer, her face a blend of skepticism and intrigue. "Show us what? Is it really enough to save the center?" Clara smiled faintly, nodding. "It might change everything for you all." She slowly unlatched the mysterious box, revealing a colorful assortment of envelopes, each one sealed with care. "These are letters from people who once lived in this community center. They were helped here when they needed it most." The crowd leaned forward, forgotten anxieties wavering slightly as Clara continued. "Each letter tells a story of hope, resilience, and love. I believe that reading them together might remind you of the bonds you share and the strength you possess." Ginger perked up, her tail wagging with renewed enthusiasm. There were memories there, connections that once formed a fabric of their community. "Do you really think that will help us?" Someone whispered from the back, their voice trembling. Clara glanced around the crowd, her gaze landing on Mr. Thompson. "It's worth a try, isn't it? Let's honor the past while forging a brighter future." The air buzzed with excitement and doubt, hope and fear intertwining like threads in a tapestry. "What if we don't feel the same way they did?" someone else asked, their voice barely above a whisper. There it was, the heart of the matter. Could they really find strength through vulnerability? Would they be brave enough to confront their fears by revisiting old stories? As Clara spread the letters out, each envelope beckoning with its own tale, Ginger felt the stirrings of unity again. Perhaps these stories held the key to their courage. Ginger's heart raced anew. What if these letters were the spark they needed? As the first letter was opened, a hush fell again. What would it say? Would it rekindle the community's spirit, or would it unravel old wounds? Clara's hands trembled slightly as she unfolded the first letter. Ginger held her breath, ready for the next twist in their extraordinary journey. What awaited them within those words? Ginger leaned closer, her ears perked up with anticipation. Clara's fingers trembled as she unfolded the first letter, revealing frayed edges and yellowed paper that whispered of years gone by. The room held its breath. "Dear Community Center family," Clara began to read aloud, her voice steady but laced with emotion. "When I first walked through your doors, I was lost and afraid. You welcomed me like family, reminding me that it's okay to be vulnerable. That strength is found in togetherness." Ginger felt warmth bloom in her chest. She could almost see the young woman standing on the brink of her new life, surrounded by familiar faces, finding her place in the world. Clara paused, glancing up at the mesmerized crowd. Their eyes glistened with unshed tears. I remember the laughter echoing down these halls. Clara continued, her voice rising and falling with the sentiments sealed within those words. And the meals shared, the kindness exchanged. It was here that I learned I was worth saving. The audience shifted in their seats, sensing a change in the atmosphere. Ginger's heart raced in rhythm with the hope blooming in the room. Clara's voice carried the weight of nostalgia and promise, igniting something inside each of them. Another voice broke the silence, quiet yet resolute. Maybe we can find our strength through these stories. Like she did, whispered one of the older members, her eyes glistening. Clara smiled encouragingly, then leaned back into the letter. I'll never forget the day I faced my fears and believed in myself. Thanks to your support, this center isn't just a building. It's a home where dreams take flight. Please remember that as you fight for its future. The words sank deep, resonating in a way they hadn't expected. Ginger could feel the energy shift, a pulse of determination spreading through the crowd. They were hearing stories not just of the past, but of their potential future. Clara continued with the next letter, features animated as she read about a young boy who had found solace in the very walls they stood in. To the staff and friends at the center, Clara read, you taught me how to face my nightmares. You showed me that I could rise above and conquer anything when I had my family by my side. There was a small murmur of recognition as people remembered their own struggles and victories within this space. Each letter felt like a thread pulling them closer together. With each story, their doubt began to dissolve, making way for strength and unity. Yet there was a twinge of anxiety that lingered at the edges. What would happen when they encountered letters that spoke of pain or heartache? Would they be ready to face those stories too? As Clara turned to the next letter, her brow furrowed. This one is different, she murmured. It comes from someone who had to leave the community. Ginger's heart pounded. What would this new revelation bring? Would it threaten their newfound hope or galvanize it even further? She watched as Clara steadied herself, her determination flickering like a flame, ready to ignite. A whisper of fear swirled in the back of Ginger's mind. What if their history was darker than they remembered? As Clara began to read, the room held its breath again, teetering on the edge of revelation. What truths would unfold? Clara took a deep breath and smoothed the letter on her lap. She cast a quick glance around the room, searching for the faces that had been so full of hope just moments ago. Now, as she prepared to share this unknown tale, uncertainty fell like a shadow over their gathering. Dear friends, Clara read, her voice steady yet softer, as though acknowledging the gravity of the words. I'm writing to you from a place that feels too distant to call home now. Leaving this community was the hardest decision I've ever made. You became my family, and I never imagined I would feel so lost without you. Ginger felt a shift in the atmosphere. The warmth suddenly felt more fragile, almost haunting. A heavy silence enveloped the room. The community had always prided itself on its strength, but vulnerability was different. It exposed a rawness they hadn't explored together yet. To say I miss you would be an understatement, Clara continued, her voice trembling slightly. When life became too overwhelming, when shadows threatened to swallow me whole, I needed to escape. I thought distance would ease the pain, but leaving you behind only amplified it. I learned that strength isn't just about moving on. It's about facing your fears head-on, and I failed in that. A muffled cry echoed from the back, a mix of empathy and sorrow. Ginger's heart ached. She glanced at the people around her, many with tears rolling silently down their cheeks. I hope you understand, Clara read on, that I didn't just abandon our dreams. I'm still fighting in my way. I want you to know, no matter where I go, my love for this community runs deep. My biggest wish is that more people can experience what we had. No one should have to feel alone like I did. A shiver rippled through the crowd. Clara paused, her finger tracing the paper, lost in the memory of loyalty and heartbreak intertwined. Ginger took a moment to process everything. How could they be both resilient and broken? The duality of their reality seemed overwhelming. What happened next? Someone called out, breaking through the silence, yearning for resolution. Clara looked up, a spark of understanding lighting her eyes. You deserve to know, she replied, courage gradually replacing her shock. The journey is just beginning, and it's not just about me. There are others out there who feel the same. The vulnerability in the room began to shift again. Folks leaned forward, curiosity overpowering fear. The stories of heartache could become tales of healing. Every anxious thought they had could turn into an opportunity for growth. I believe this letter will take us somewhere we haven't been yet, Clara declared, her voice gaining strength. Though I may be far away, the impact of our past is powerful enough to shape the future we can create together. Maybe it's time to face those shadows, not in hiding, but in unity. Ginger felt the pulse of hope again, and it was stronger than before. Together, they could confront whatever was spoken next. Clara scanned the crowd, her heart racing as she asked, "Would you like to hear what happened after I left?" The response was overwhelming, a chorus of murmurs, eager nods, and hands rising in agreement. But among the excitement lingered the question, could they truly face what lay ahead? Clara's gaze lingered on Ginger, whose heart hammered with anticipation. As the room buzzed with energy, Clara's next words loomed heavy in the air, promising truths yet untold. What shadows would they face, and would unity be their guiding light? Clara inhaled deeply, her gaze traveling over the sea of familiar faces, eyes wide with eager anticipation. She felt a warmth spread through her chest. They were ready for this. After I left, she began, I found myself in a city that felt foreign. The streets echoed with voices I didn't know. Each day was hard, trying to find my footing, but the hardest part. Clara hesitated, swallowing hard. The hardest part was realizing I had no one to turn to, no familiar arms to fall into when the weight became too heavy. A few people shifted in their seats, each connected to Clara's pain. The room was charged with collective heartache, but Clara pressed on. I searched for a place that felt like home, yet it only highlighted what I had lost. I didn't have the community we built together, the laughter, the shared meals, the simple, warm presence of my friends. Her voice cracked, and she took a moment to compose herself. Ginger felt tears prick her eyes. She didn't just hear Clara's story, she felt it deep within herself. She thought back to her own moments of loneliness and longing. I wondered, Clara continued, her eyes now shining with a mix of sadness and resilience. I took long walks through parks where I observed families laughing, and younger kids playing games. I saw couples holding hands, and it only made me yearn for the connections I had left behind. There was a momentary silence as the crowd absorbed the weight of her words. Clara shifted in her seat, finding a bit more steadiness, but then something shifted for me. I met a group of people who were struggling like I was. We formed a circle, a makeshift community of broken hearts. And it was in that circle that I began to learn that it's okay to not be okay. Ginger leaned in closer, feeling a flicker of hope. These new friends showed me that vulnerability isn't something to shy away from. It's a strength. We shared our experiences, our darkness. We talked about fears and failures, and it was freeing, something I hadn't expected. Clara paused again, her eyes roving over the faces of her friends back home, rooted in their attention. During those late-night talks, I discovered something important. No journey is too great when shared with others. The struggles we faced became our bridges. We forged connections through our pain. I learned, often in the hardest ways, that accepting help doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're brave enough to face your own shadows. There was a ripple of murmurs in the room. Clara's courage sparked something deep inside Ginger. Together with Clara, they could face shadows, not alone but together. You see, Clara said, voice rising with conviction, what I experienced, what I learned wasn't just about me. It's something we can carry back here. We can form that same circle of honesty. If we allow ourselves to be vulnerable together, we can rise. We can heal. A wave of emotion swept through the crowd, igniting renewed energy. Clara's words hung in the air, like a promise, spiraling into a vision of what could be. Now, Clara said, her voice dropping to a whisper, what if I told you the healing starts today? What if the first step is to share our stories? Each person here carries their own weight, and together we can lighten those burdens. Ginger felt her breath catch. Clara was daring them to explore the darkness, the depths of their wounds. Could they really face it all, together? As Clara locked eyes with her once more, the unspoken bond tightened. Who will take that first step? She asked, holding the silence like a weighted blanket. Ginger's heart raced. Would she step forward? Would others join her? The room pulsed with potential, and Clara's challenge hung in the air like an invitation. What would they do next? Ginger glanced around the room, the weight of Clara's question settling in like a fog. Faces she knew and loved looked back at her, each caught in their own thoughts. A flicker of nervousness twisted in her belly. She could feel the shared tension, the heartbeat of uncertainty mingled with hope. The silence stretched, but then something inside her began to stir. It felt like a spark igniting in the dark. She took a deep breath, the air rushing in, filling her lungs like fresh beginnings. I'll go first, she said, her voice somehow steadier than she anticipated. Clara's eyes widened with surprise, but then a smile lit her face. The warmth in her chest surged. Ginger stood up, heart pounding against her ribs. I guess I've been hiding for too long, she began, borrowing strength from Clara's journey. When Clara left her told to neither anyone. She hesitated, feeling vulnerable and raw. I felt so alone. A few faces in the crowd nodded, and the room filled with an understanding murmur. Ginger continued. I kept thinking about all the fun we had together, and how every gathering felt like magic. It's like a part of me went dull when she left. Clara's eyes glistened. and Ginger felt her encouragement radiating like a lighthouse. Ginger let out a shaky laugh. I even tried to throw myself into work, but that just made it worse. It didn't fill the void. It only reminded me of what was missing. Her words tumbled out, raw and honest. I wish I had reached out sooner, instead of pretending I was fine. I've spent so many nights lying awake, wondering if my friends thought I didn't care. The room felt supportive, a cocoon of warmth wrapping around her. Ginger glanced down, wiping a stray tear from her cheek before continuing. I want to change that. I want to build that circle, here and now. I know I'm not alone in this. I'm so proud of you. Clara beamed, her voice ringing clear through the emotion thick in the air. Thank you for being brave. One by one, heads began to nod in agreement. Others slowly stood up, taking their own steps into the light. Diana, her childhood friend, broke in next. I feel the same way. I've missed you all, and I've been scared to admit it. Me too, chimed in Aaron, his voice trembling slightly. I've felt lost without our group, just moving through life like a ghost. As the brave confessions rolled in, Ginger felt a weight lifting. There was power in their shared vulnerability. Every story added another thread to their growing tapestry, their connection strengthening with every spoken word. Laughter mixed with tears, moments of joy and sorrow weaving together. They were weaving their community anew, stitching together the broken pieces in a beautiful mosaic. It was a sight Ginger could hardly believe, the magic that was possible when people opened their hearts. After a while, Clara raised her hands, signaling for quiet. You see, this is what we needed. We've created a safe space, a circle that can hold our stories without judgment. There was excitement buzzing in the air, an electric anticipation. But even as they celebrated this incredible shift, Ginger felt a twinge of uncertainty. What if their commitment to healing led them to dark places? Would they be able to navigate through the pain together? With her heart racing, she understood that this was just the beginning. They had opened the floodgates, but what awaited them on the other side? Would they emerge stronger, or would they find themselves lost in shadows again? Where do we go from here? Ginger asked, her voice cutting through the joyous chatter, her heart thumping in her chest. The question hung in the room, filled with uncharted possibilities. Ginger stood motionless, her heart a drum in her chest as she listened for a response to her question. The room was alive with whispers and exchanged glances, everyone contemplating the leap they had just made. Clara's face was a picture of excitement, mixed with concern, clearly feeling the pressure of the moment. Finally, it was Aaron who broke the silence. I think we need to make a plan. Something tangible, something we can hold on to. His voice had grown stronger, buoyed by the energy in the room. What if we met weekly? Suggested Diana, warmth spreading across her face as she spoke. A time just for us. To be open, to share, to simply be together. The idea sent a ripple of enthusiasm through the group. Several voices chimed in, excitedly suggesting days and times. Each one trying to carve out the space that had been missing for so long. Ginger felt her spirits lift higher with each passing suggestion. It was as if the room had transformed into a wellspring of hope. As they spoke, Ginger's mind wandered. She thought about the conversations they would have, the laughter, the tears, the support. They were crafting something beautiful from the pain, building a bridge over the chasms that had formed between them. This was a connective tissue, bonding hearts that had been stretched to thin. But what if those gaps were deeper than they realized? What if, in this exploration of emotions, shadows from the past began to rise? The thought sent a shiver through her. While the future sparkled with promise, she couldn't help but feel a flicker of dread shadowing it. Can we also have moments for fun? Clara interjected, her eyes sparking, like game nights or potlucks. It's important to remember how to enjoy life together. Their laughter echoed again, lightening the atmosphere. Ideas flooded in outings, movie nights, kindness challenges. With each suggestion, moments of joy began to fill spaces that had long been dormant. It felt like planting seeds that would blossom into something wonderful. But still, the seed of doubt burrowed deeper. Would they navigate the inevitable storms that would come? Would they be strong enough to see each other through darker times when laughter felt distant? Could we also create a sort of check-in? Ginger found herself saying, her voice softer but steady. Like a way to share if we're struggling but also to celebrate when we're doing well. It could keep us connected. Head nods and murmurs of agreement met her suggestion. Clara beamed at her, pride radiating through their unspoken bond. The conversation turned more purposeful, the group laughing, sharing stories, and building the framework of authentic support. But amidst the shared joy, Ginger felt her chest tighten as the reality hit her hard. What if they faced truths too painful to share? The fear tinged her excitement with uncertainty. As the meeting began to wind down, the energy grew richer. They had crafted plans and possibilities together, igniting a fire of commitment in each heart. Yet, even in their launched enthusiasm, the question of what lay ahead still lingered. Would they have the strength to face the complicated feelings that were bound to emerge? As they gathered their belongings, Clara turned to Ginger, confidence shining in her eyes. We'll get through it, won't we? It wasn't a question, but a promise. Ginger's heart swelled. Together, she affirmed softly, but a shadow hung over her spirit. It was time to step deeper into the unknown. The door opened, and group members filed out, whispers of excitement trailing behind them. But for Ginger, the weight of what was to come lay heavy on her mind like the dark clouds before the storm. They were forging a new path, but how steep would that journey be? Could they reach the light on the other side, or would they falter along the way? As she stepped into the crisp, evening air, the atmosphere crackled around her with possibilities. But in that moment, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the cusp of something far more profounder. Journey that would test the very limits of their healing. What secrets would be unearthed in their quest for connection? The weeks passed, and every Tuesday night was marked on their calendars as Together Tuesday. The laughter, stories, and shared vulnerabilities poured forth like rivers, carving deeper channels of connection among the group. Ginger sat at their feet, her tail wagging as they gathered in circles formed by soft couches and eager hearts. Each encounter was a tapestry woven with joy and tears, healing and laughter. Yet, with every smile shared, a shadow lingered. The challenge of facing deeper wounds loomed ahead. They began creating check-in cards, small envelopes where they could write their feelings for the week, whether they felt buoyant or heavy-hearted. The aroma of potluck meals filled the space, mingling with moments of shared grief and nostalgia. Clara led the group with unwavering courage, lifting the lid on stories that ran deep, stories of past heartaches and longings. They embraced them all, tracing back to memories of what the community center had once meant to them. One Tuesday, Ginger noticed Clara's nervous fidgeting. As the room quieted, Clara finally spoke, her voice trembling. "I think today might be hard. I want to share something that's been weighing on me." A hush fell over the group, eyes narrowing in concern. "I'm ready to talk about why I left," Clara continued, glancing up to meet their gazes. "When I moved away, I thought I was escaping, but really, I was running from my inability to cope. Elegance was my mask, and I played at being strong when all I felt was fear." Tension filled the air, raw and palpable. Ginger sat up, sensing Clara's shift. "It was easier to distance myself than lean on all of you. I didn't believe I deserved to be part of such a supportive community anymore." The tears streamed down Clara's cheeks, and the room felt the weight of her admission. A wave of understanding washed over the room. Heads nodded as shadows mirrored Clara's confession. "We know what that feels like," Diana said softly. "So many times, I've felt like a burden." Each whisper of shared experiences connected them tighter. They all shared their truths, the loneliness, the stories of loss, the struggles they'd faced while seeking the light. The atmosphere shifted, filled with a weight that was both heavy and relieving. "This isn't just about us," Ginger thought, her heart swelling. "It's about the healing of a community." The evening transformed into an exploration of every shadow they had danced around before. It became their strength, forging an unbreakable bond. By the final story shared, tears and laughter had flowed freely. The room overflowed with appreciation and a shared understanding of vulnerability. Clara touched each person's arm in gratitude. "Thank you for letting me feel safe again." But just as the emotional release settled into a calm, Ginger felt unease gnawing at her. That night, her dreams turned chaotic and tangled. Whispers of loneliness echoed within the corners of her mind. She woke in a chilled sweat, heart racing. The weight of what lay ahead slumped her shoulders. Could they really remain this close? Would the darkness that they'd unearthed lead them too far away from the joy they had just rediscovered? The nagging worry gripped her. However, at their next gathering, the conversation turned toward real actions. The fundraising event was on the horizon, and they needed to galvanize the community. The team felt both excitement and nervousness, the responsibility of uniting the townsfolk hanging in the air. "Together, we can make this special," Clara declared, her voice echoing their earlier resolve. The energy buzzed around them, and they started brainstorming ideas to rally support on a local scale. Families, friends, and neighbors, everyone mattered as they strove to pay it forward to the community center that had once held them all. As the days grew shorter, their heartbeats aligned as one rhythm. Ginger could feel the swelling passion. Posters filled every town square. Social media posts skated like wildfire, and conversations began igniting at every corner cafe. It was a resurrection of hope. Yet, on the eve of the fundraiser, a sudden storm rolled over the horizon. Heavy clouds loomed over the neighborhood, rain pounding against the windows, nearly drowning out their fervor. "What if no one shows?" Aaron worried, the doubt palpable in his voice. As they huddled together, the echoes of laughter from previous weeks faded, replaced by the gathering shadows of despair. Ginger felt Mr. Parker's hand on her head, a comforting weight. No matter what happens, we did this together. He smiled softly. We've created a community far stronger than we realized. With a sigh of determination, Clara rallied everyone. Even storms can't weaken our resolve. We've come this far. We can weather this night together. Her words flowed, igniting a fury of excitement, and they braced themselves as they headed into the storm. The night of the fundraiser arrived, and the building glowed with a warmth that contrasted against the gray skies outside. The chatter swelled in the community center, filled with laughter and renewed spirits. People poured in, bringing food and donations. Every face was a familiar pace, a tapestry of unity intertwined. Ginger bounded around, feeling the joy electrifying the air. For an instant, worries melted as she basked in the shadows of the past, turning into vibrant moments of the present. Yet, in the heart of joy, tension lurked. A commotion at the door caught her attention. Clara stood in front, stunned. An older gentleman from the neighborhood, Mr. Whitaker, had just entered, his face stricken. I heard there's a rumor, he stumbled through with concern. I'm worried this place is more vulnerable than we thought. There's talk that the center could face closure if this event doesn't raise enough funds. A whisper rippled through the crowd. The atmosphere shifted, dread clawed at their hearts. Ginger observed the unease creeping back into their faces as Clara swallowed hard. Then now is the moment we dig deeper. Clara rallied, her spirit rekindled with fire. We can show what we're made of. With mounting terror and a renewed sense of urgency, Ginger felt it too. This was a defining moment. Every heartfelt story they had shared, every ounce of hope they had instilled would show their true strength. Could they rise to the call, or would this setback consume them? Embracing the challenges, the outpouring of commitment surged through the group. They gathered around, united under the stormy sky, illuminating their vision of salvation through a community of love. Ginger, filled with energy that radiated from the hearts around her, knew this was where they drew their strength. Standing tall against the turbulent winds of uncertainty, they began their journey of resilience. It was not just the community center they were fighting for. It was the essence of family, the laughter, the joy, the memories shared, and the love that prompted them to rise again. This moment ignited a fire so bright it chased away the shadows in their hearts, and in the darkness of the storm they found their light. The trembling energy of fear transformed into the vibrant pulse of hope, intertwining them all like the vibrant threads of a glorious tapestry. And so, they took the stage, hand in hand, familiar faces glowing with possibility. Together, they vowed to fight for the heart of their community, to not just survive but to thrive, rising victoriously as they stared in the face of uncertainty. Together, Clara shouted, her voice echoing through the night. Yes, together! The chorus of voices rose, a cannon of shared strength resonating through the community center, cutting through the dark. Ginger knew they had come too far to turn back now. It was time to heal, time to embrace change. And together, they stepped forward into their brightest chapter yet. As the applause swept over them like a warm rush, and tears of joy glistened in every eye, Ginger's heart soared among them. Their story was only beginning a journey that would uncover the deepest parts of love, loss, and triumph woven into their community's fabric. And in that moment, Inspiration bloomed in their hearts, an indelible bond that would remain forever, guiding them into their future, one filled with unshakable hope and unbreakable connection. Will you join this journey? **** subscribe immediately *** to our channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help this message of hope reach more hearts. You need to comment your reactions, feelings, and what this story means to you. And don't wait, not even one more second, to share this with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.